Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros. Excited on another episode this week of the Cashflow Project. And today we're going to have on Ashley Tyson on the show. So Ashley's a co-founder of OZ Pros. So that's Opportunity Zone Pros. As a nationally recognized Opportunity Zone advisory that's helped investors and entrepreneurs defer more than $1 billion in taxes. That should perk your ears up, guys. And we've got a kind of a unique period too. So we're going to dive in a little bit here with Ashley here in just a little bit. He's a magna cum laude grad of UNC Charlotte and UNC Chapel Hill School of Law. So he's a practicing attorney. So, normally we have a disclaimer of, hey, none of this is legal and financial advice. We're just two guys on the internet talking shop here. He can chime in a little bit more legitly for sure on that than I can, but we'll still throw that disclaimer out. And he's also known, because of what they specialize in, he's known as the Opportunity Zone Sherpa, which is pretty awesome for his ability to make complex rules simple to help investors navigate the waters of investing and investing strategically, right? Because there's a lot of opportunity out there through the tax code, through specific ways to invest into real estate in order to maximize the amount of return and limit the amount of tax exposure. So, it's something vital to have. So we're excited to have him on the show. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me on. It's an honor and a privilege. Looking forward to talking about OZs and how people could save money on taxes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I had this conversation frequently with investors. We network a ton. We host a local meetup here. We've been meeting every month for the last 6 years. And you go to multiple conferences. I tell people all the time, look, if you're good at anything, you end up with a tax problem. If you're a good business owner, if you're a good entrepreneur, if you're a good investor, you're going to end up with a tax problem. And we need to find ways in order to help mitigate those taxes. And if there's something we can implement from the get-go in our overall investing strategy, to me, that's absolutely vital. I'm sure you've seen that and helped many clients over the years navigate those waters. But before we dive into that, give us a little bit of your background. I know we were talking a little bit off camera. You're obviously a hunter and whatnot. Give us your backstory. How did you even get into the business? You're working kind of a niche segment of the market here. How'd you get started? How'd you go from law school to investing and doing all that good stuff?
God bless the broken road that brought me here today. So it's a long and a brief time sordid history. When you're coming out of law school, you've got one conception about the way things are going to be. And then it's kind of like how Mike Tyson says that everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And so I came out of law school, I went to a big law firm and I got punched in the face by big law. I managed to hang in there for 5 years, but the year that my oldest son was born, who actually turned 22 yesterday. So that was 22 years ago. I billed 330 hours in 1 month. So just run the math on that. Even if I'm working all 30 days, that's 11 hours a day. I slept at my office for a week straight. And I was like, this has got to give. I got to do something different. And so I went house with a client that was a commercial real estate developer and tenant and common syndicator, and we syndicated 1031 deals. So we would buy commercial shopping centers and we would sell them to 1031 investors by the scoop. So we bought it by the gallon, sold it by the scoop. And that went well. I distributed that product through a network of broker dealers and RIAs. We did it as a Wall Street level product. We're approved by a number of due diligence firms out there and got underwritten to be able to distribute off of a couple different platforms. And so learned about how you can sell real estate through more of a kind of a traditional Wall Street level broker dealer network. So when the commercial real estate market crashed and ticks basically went the way of the dinosaur, I went back to practicing law and I built up an M&A firm. But I wanted to take that kind of Wall Street level sophistication and bring it to Main Street level investors. I was like, you know what? It's ridiculous that just the big boys are using this stuff. And so we brought our document set of a really sophisticated M&A transaction to Main Street level deals. And we were able to put that together through a document management software platform that we developed. And it was back in the day when actually one click of the button and it filled out a whole set of documents was something that was like really novel. I think that ChatGPT does that based off of prompts now. It's crazy how things have changed. We built that up and built it up very successfully and ended up selling that in 2017 because I saw how much of a vendor that Uncle Sam was for my clients as they were selling and how much money they were writing in checks to the government. And I was like, wow, these folks are leaving a ton of money on the table that we could accomplish and we could significantly reduce with some fairly simple strategies. And so as I built my succession planning practice, because that's what I was really focused on was, hey, listen, let's build you a business that you can exit, but that you don't have to. And along the way, I was at a continuing legal education seminar, heard this guy talking about the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. And he said, and they slipped in these things called opportunity zones in 3 pages. And I ran him down in the hall afterwards. And I was like, hey, man, I was like, those opportunity zone things sounded like 1031 and private equity got married. And he's going to had a beautiful baby named Opportunity Zones. And so I was like, all right, we're in. And so we spent about $1,000 on a website and on Google search terms. And in 2 weeks, we had 150 inbound leads and $75 million worth of capital looking for deals. And so I was like, all right, we're on to something. And literally, it wasn't immediate that I started doing opportunity zones full time. But as an early adopter, and with my experience inside of that tech world, coupled in with operating businesses and a whole lot of expertise around operating businesses, very quickly became one of the experts in the space. And so have just been doing that ever since. And so our passion, we took that document set, that document management platform, and we applied it to opportunity zones in order to bring what I think is the greatest tax incentive ever legislatively created to Main Street America and to allow regular real estate investors to be able to take advantage of this, which is, it's unbelievable what it accomplishes if you do it right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so much, I think, growing up, you hear taxes and it's all the IRS is the enemy and all that kind of stuff. And so, look, there's so much in that tax code. You got to remember the government is, who runs the government? There's a lot of very influential, very successful people that are in government spaces. Take that however you like it. The reality is that it's there. The government is good at doing certain things. The government is not good at doing other things that the private sector is better suited for doing. Okay, so the opportunity zones, and actually I will have you dive into just to kind of level set for our audience exactly what the opportunity zone is. I just wanted to highlight the power of understanding the tax code. The tax code is written for us, for the people that are willing to kind of dive in to navigate those waters of what the tax code actually implies, what it says specifically about different businesses and how it's there and how you can benefit from it. Because again, guys, it's there whether you are willing to recognize it or not. And so it's either going to work against you and it's just going to, or it's just going to leave it. It'll be left there. You're going to be leaving money on the table, just to your point there, Ashley. But can you briefly go over, just for our audience real quick, what an opportunity zone is?
Sure. So like I said, they were created by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. And it was specifically to encourage private capital to go into areas that had been historically underinvested in and kind of left behind by the great run-up after the Great Recession. So after the Great Recession, there was a lot of places that picked back up and the real estate market went crazy. Yep. And then there were a lot of places that didn't. And so this was specifically designed in order to, number one, get the attention of private capital. Number two, get it off the sidelines. And then number three, make it patient. And they did that through 3 separate incentives. So the first thing was that they said, hey, listen, if you have a capital gain, you can take that capital gain and you can invest it into a qualified opportunity fund, which is really simply just it can be an LLC tax as a partnership, as simple as that. And if you're in qualified opportunity fund invests into these qualified opportunity zones, which is a low income census tract that the governor's got to designate. So the governor's got to designate up to 25% of their low income census tracts per the 2010 census. So keep in mind that there's a lot that's changed between 2010 and now relative to what these census tracts look like, that you can defer the taxes until December 31st, 2026. And then we're going to give you incentive if you get in by 2019 and 2021. We're going to reduce those taxes. So you actually have to pay those deferred taxes at the end of this year, December 31st, 2026, because they had to have an end date of the program. Mm-hmm. And so under 1.0 legislation, that date is at the end of this year. And so you get to defer the taxes until then. You pay the taxes in April of 2027, But the key thing is that after you've held your fund investment for 10 years, anything that's owned by the fund is eligible for a step up in basis to fair market value, which completely eliminates capital gains and depreciation recapture. So that becomes a really powerful play because you're now able to take something that was growing in a taxable environment and put it into the eighth wonder of the world, which is a tax-free compound interest environment. And that's what opportunity zones do. And so there's nuances to them, but at the end of the day, the greatest thing about opportunity zones that they passed was that they made it really simple for ordinary taxpayers to do. You don't have to ask for permission from anybody. It's as of right. So literally all you have to do is have a capital gain, and that can come from anything: long-term, short-term, sale of real estate, sale of stocks, sale of crypto, sale of anything. You drop it into a fund, you invest into a zone, and that can either be real estate or operating businesses. And you hold that investment in your fund for 10 years. You don't actually have to hold the asset 10 years, but you hold your investment in the fund 10 years and you make whatever you've invested in completely tax-free. And so that is why I think it is the most powerful, legislatively creative tax incentive ever.
Yeah, it's super powerful. Just, I know if you guys have to, depending on your platform, but it actually doesn't matter your platform, go back and you can re-listen to what Ashley was just laying out there, because you may need just a minute. Because again, it may not be what you're typically used to. And I've got a couple of questions that are off of that.
Sure.
Because for a lot of investors, okay, hey, I'm fixing and flipping. I'm a long-term and I buy mostly residential. Does this even work for me? You guys are talking about syndication, you're talking about commercial. Does this work does any of this kind of trickle down? Those are just some quick questions that I know that I'm thinking of right offhand for some of our listeners. It's got a pretty broad-based listener base. Just to go back to how you got started real quick, I want to point out a couple of things that are immediately implementable, I think, for most of our listeners. Was you were doing this for other clients. There are at least some components of the strategy that help you to identify, okay, look, I can see these opportunities coming up. You're doing legal work, tax advantage legal work for the big boys, for bigger players in the space. And you started to identify opportunities with that help you to see, okay, hey, they're having new legislation come out. Wow, okay, I think this is providing a new market here, new little space in the market that could be massive. Now, this is something that I think people frequently, especially if they're still working their W-2s, because not everybody who's listening to the show, maybe you're working up to be a full-time investor, or you'd like to be there, maybe, okay, you still got your W-2, and I totally get that. I think one thing that people miss out frequently on is, look, if you're W-2 and you're working for a bigger business, there are always things that you can take away from that bigger business that you can likely implement into your own business or find opportunities for. And I think too frequently, people miss out on that. Look, if let's say you work for a bank and you see those clients coming in, this is exactly what Ashley was doing. He was helping these larger companies, high net worth individuals, helping them through deal structures and saying, okay, hey, this isn't just for them. We can do this too. Or I can bring this to a wider audience, not just these people who are doing these deals. And I think too often we miss out on that. So look around, you guys. Look around, whatever it is that you're doing. If you're still working a full-time job, and maybe you love your job, that's totally great. Look around to see, hey, is there anything that I can glean from this environment that they're doing really well that's allowed them to scale up to multiple locations, however many employees that you have there? There's something there that you can take away to implement into your own investing strategy. So I love that you did that, and now you're able to help out countless other people, because I love how you want to help the investor. You want to help them to do good things by doing good work there. But yeah, so to fast forward back to what we were talking about. Now, because of that expiration, you're talking about December of this year, or how they're going to need to, that obviously opens up some opportunities. Is there still some stuff that's hanging out that we don't fully have clarification on, and that we just at least have that through what the tax code says currently? And are you anticipating changes to that? Are they going to re-up that? Have you heard anything about that? Or what is, I know this is the 1.0. What does 2.0 look like?
So they actually passed 2.0 under the One Big Beautiful Bill, because it was going to expire as of December 31st, 2026. In 2.0, they made the program permanent. And so now there's going to be a rolling designation of opportunity zones. And so under that, we expect the first zones to get nominated by the governors in July of this year. And so those zones will get designated, and now people will be able to roll their capital gains in starting January 1st, 2027. And because it's not tied to a date anymore, it's now a rolling 5-year deferral that they get. So they get to defer that capital gain for 5 years. And if they're invested for that full 5 years, they get a 10% reduction when they pay the taxes. Or if they're into a rural qualified opportunity fund, which is a qualified opportunity fund that invests 90% of its assets in rural opportunity zones, you get a 30% reduction when you pay the taxes. And so there's a massive opportunity under 2.0 relative to going forward about how that's going to positively affect people in January of 2027. What it's created is it's created this window between now and then. So between now and December 31st, 2026, where people can actually take a valuation discount. So if they have a gain, they could put it into a fund. And because they wanted to incentivize people to go into seemingly maybe not the best areas, which I would which I would argue is not the case at all. But because there's this perception of that, they said, listen, when you go to pay the taxes, you either pay on your original gain amount or what the value of your fund investment is at the time that you have to pay the taxes. So there's this unique opportunity to be able to write down on paper what your investment was into the deal. So you have $1 million of capital gains taxes, you put it into a fund that's now under construction as of December 31st, 2026, and you're going to get a construction discount. Sometimes if you combine the discounts, it could be upwards of 50%. And so instead of paying taxes on $1 million, you're now going to pay taxes on $500,000 next year. And now your investment, you get it, you finish the construction on it, and you put it in service 10 years out. When that thing's worth $5 million, you now pay zero capital gains and zero depreciation recapture. And so I think that's the big opportunity between 1.0 and 2.0. The other thing is that there is the existing tracks that got designated under 1.0. And once again, this went back to 2010. And it also allowed the governors to designate a number of contiguous tracks. Those tracks don't technically expire until December 31st of 2028. The question, though, is can you do a deal in one of those tracks after December 31st, 2026? And the answer is still up in the air. We anticipate that the IRS is going to give us regs on that relative to the transition rules. But right now, if a really conservative reading of the way the statute and the regs work together is that you need to incur your capital gain prior to the end of this year in order to do a deal in those 1.0 zones. So there's this closing window of time to execute a gain, get your gain into a fund, and get your project started. And it needs to be, and the great thing is that it's actually not a lot. So $250,000 is what the threshold was that was in some draft legislation that we had relative to the transition and the grandfathering rules. And so it's really not a huge amount, but you gotta get on the stick. You gotta make it happen. So that way you're safe harbored under that. So that way you can proceed with that project. I also want to make sure that people understand that this isn't for just millionaires and billionaires and people that have massive capital gains. Because remember, it's all about that future capital gain that you're trying to protect. So as long as you have some capital gain now, you can put it into your own qualified opportunity fund. So you don't have to syndicate this. When people hear qualified opportunity fund, they think Fidelity or BlackRock or whatever. No, it's not. You don't have to have a major fund. You don't have to syndicate this. It could completely be your own money that you put into a fund in order to take advantage of the tax favorable treatment. And so people ask me that all the time. How much do I need? And the answer is not how much gain do you have now. It's all about what you anticipate in the future. If you're going to start up the next Facebook, because once again, this doesn't have to be just real estate. It could be operating businesses. Start it in an OZ, take $1,000 worth of capital gain to start it up, run it as an opportunity zone business, and then 10 years from now, when you sell it for $5 billion, you're going to pay zero tax on that $5 billion.
Yeah, think about that. That's very exciting, especially now. Look, you got AI coming on the scene. There's new opportunities like never before. This is the benefit of being in a disruptive environment, guys, is that it creates opportunity for people. So I will ask a couple of things there, Ashley. So for the current arrangement, because I can already hear, I'm just trying to parse out questions in my mind of like, all right, what are our listeners maybe asking or thinking to themselves? Hey,
Sure.
you're in the Carolinas, I'm in Hawaii. Hey, does this work everywhere? Obviously, they're going to be designating new zones
Sure.
coming up. And so we'll have you back on, and we're glad to kind of dive in. I'm sure they're going to provide clarification. Obviously, that's going to create new opportunity. We're currently, like, where does that work? Is this in every city? Is this in every state?
Every territory has at least one opportunity zone. There's opportunity zones in Hawaii. So once again, the governor of Hawaii got to designate 25% of the low-income census tracts. And for islands, they actually got a special dispensation because of how population can work inside of those. And there's a number of really great ones on Honolulu, like where Honolulu is. I can't remember, it's Oahu. Yep. And then there's one on Kauai, like half of the island's an opportunity zone. There's opportunity zone census tracts in Maui as well. And so then and every state has them. 98% of the island of Puerto Rico is an opportunity zone. Mm-hmm. And so there are definitely tracts available. And if they want to find out if their property's in an opportunity zone census tract, they could go to our website, ozpros.com/map. And we've got the existing list of all 1.0 zones that are designated. Now, there's a number of other maps out there. And so if you want to find the potential tracts, there's a map that shows that. If you want to find the rural designated zones, there's one that has that. Ours is really simple. It's the existing tracts as designated under 1.0. Once we have the new tracts, we'll modify our map. So that way we'll have a 1.0 map and a 2.0 map. And then we'll have the ability for you to overlay the two of those. But right now, it's really simple. If you want to find out if you're in an opportunity zone, go to ozpros.com/map.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll make sure we include that link in the show notes too, guys. Wherever you're watching it, you'll be able to get access to that. But if not, just go back, rewind 10 seconds. And Ashley said link to their site. But that's actually super, super helpful because, again, and we have listeners all over the place. So it's not just that they're here in Hawaii, but it's, again, I can just imagine if you're listening to this, because we're thousands of miles apart from each other. And it's like, that's immediately a question that would come to my mind as an investor. And this is the first time I'm hearing this. Hey, Ashley, this sounds amazing, but I'm not in Carolina. I'm not on the mainland. I'm not in this state or that state or whatever. And so it's, hey, does this work where I'm at? I love that you said that too, for it's not just real estate. It could be, it's businesses. So it's, hey, you have a business that's up and running. We're dealing with capital gains, guys, and you're dealing with potentially large chunks of money. So these are effectively seeds planted into the ground that you expect to harvest on, let's say, in the future. And this is where it comes into play, where to have a strategy, not to just throw, okay, I'm just going to throw some money at this deal and this deal. You can be very strategic with it. And you want to, this is where the tax planning comes into play, because again, if you can avoid a huge tax bill to Uncle Sam, do you think that you can go and reinvest that capital versus just having and paying it to the government? I think we can all agree the government is not the greatest at capital allocators everybody can think of. And it's been in the news and all that kind of stuff. But regardless, I think you can find better ways to use that capital. And if you don't have to pay it out because you're a savvy business person, you can go redeploy that capital to have it grow more. And that's the name of the game. Strategies like this can really supercharge your investing career. It really can. And I can't emphasize that enough. And
Steve, we help people with those strategies. That's specifically what we do. And we've got a couple of ways we do it. So we set up captive opportunity funds for people. We'll set up an opportunity fund if somebody wants to syndicate. But we also have a mastermind where people come in and they're like at every piece of the opportunity zone spectrum. I've got massive developers and business owners that are well-versed and really experts in what they do, all the way to the beginners that are doing single family rentals that have 2 properties and are just starting in the game. And I've got folks, to your point, one guy is on that. It's every Tuesday from 10 to 11:30 Eastern. And I got one guy that's in Hawaii, and he always shows up with his Sherpa mug with the logo. Because you join, I send you out a big care package with a bunch of swag in it. And then I got folks, I got one guy one couple that's from Guam. We got folks from Puerto Rico in that mastermind. We've got folks from all across the country that come in there to, number one, ask questions, but then number two, to hear other people's questions, hear what they've got going on. And then they're a part of our Opportunity Zone community and a part of the mastermind where we hit other stuff in addition to opportunity zones. that, that they may have questions about.
Yeah. And I think this is a huge benefit too. And this is a reason that we've done our local meetup for so long. I love your Bucky's cup, by the way. The should be a Sherpa one. Just caught by. I wish we had Bucky's here in Hawaii. We obviously don't. But no, you want to be in the right rooms. There's a very common saying that your net worth is your network, right? And you want to be around other people who are doing things different than you, different strategies, different business sectors. Even if it's on real estate, there's a million and one different ways to make money in real estate, guys. Like the same thing. Hey, you're a business owner? Great. I want to be in a room full of other business owners because something that's working in a different sector or different business type may have application in my business. And I would never know it. If I'm just siloed in my own little echo chamber, I never hear that. And even stuff like that. If there's somebody, and if they've got a strategy that they're implementing in Guam or Puerto Rico or somewhere on the mainland or whatever that I can bring here and I can implement here, that's my unfair advantage. That's my blue ocean. So
that's right.
So you want to be able to leverage the resources and power of other people. And I love that. I would highly encourage you guys to do that. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over the years. Steve, I've been working in my job for the last 20 years. I love my job, but nobody there is an investor. Nobody there is a business owner. I feel very solo. The entrepreneur's journey can be very lonely. Make sure that you have community wherever you are. And with the advent of, look, you can listen to a show like this. Awesome, amazing. Thank you for taking that step. But check out his mastermind group. Check out others. There may be stuff that's local to you or may pertinent to your location or your time zone. There's no excuse at this point anymore, guys. You can learn so much just by being intentional about it. Get in a better room. And it's okay to I try to usually make it an intention. Like I want to be the poorest guy in the room. Because again, then I can glean from everybody else that's 5 steps, 10 steps, 20 steps down the road. It's really the only way that you're going to learn. But I think this is an opportunity for you to be vulnerable. But in that, again, that can help to advance your career, your investing career, your life so much further down the road than those people that are not willing to do that. So just a quick word of encouragement to you guys. And yeah, awesome. Anything else that you see? I think that's actually pretty great. And I love that you broke that down too, where this is available. There's every geography. There's no state. Now it's not going to work necessarily internationally. You mentioned some territories, and that's probably about the furthest out that we can actually implement a bunch of this. Puerto Rico to Guam. Okay. Like if you're on the mainland, awesome. But Steve, Ashley, does this work? I'm buying stuff in Dubai right now. Does this work there?
I wish it did.
I
wish it did, but no, it's a U.S.-based tax program that's location-based where they're trying to drive investment into these areas. And so by very definition, it's U.S.-based stuff. Now, the question is, will Venezuela be a territory when they get to designate the new zones? I don't know.
Agricultural, so that's the new idea. No, but again, you see how the government works when you look at programs like this. They will think of this as like a carrot. They want businesses to drive redevelopment, innovation, capital into certain areas. So they use this incentive strategies in order to get you as a savvy entrepreneur, a savvy investor, savvy capital allocator, real estate person. They want you to come into those areas and to provide things, again, that they can't do. They're not great at doing a lot of things. You as an innovator can bring opportunity into those areas. And again, you can feel good about that too. Do you think that elevates the quality of life for all those other people that are in that area? Yes. Do you think new businesses are going to want to come if you're bringing value into that area and helping to turn around? Yeah. So it's exciting to see. And it's exciting that
we got reports after reports that show that this program has worked. So there's almost over 150 billion that's gone into opportunity zones. And because of that, we've seen a significant increase in home prices, in real estate prices, and a decrease in poverty in the areas that were designated as OZs that against their peers that were not designated. The other thing is that we've seen story after story about deals that got done because they're of the Opportunity Zone program that wouldn't have gotten done otherwise. Yep. And so it works, and it is working. And now it's going to have the potential to work permanently. And so because of that, the excuse of, that program's ending or it's short or it's going to time out or whatever, that's gone. And so I think that this is actually it's definitely on par with 1031. Depends on what your goals are. But if you've got a business, this is effectively 1031 on steroids for you. And it becomes really powerful if you harness it correctly. once again, you just need to make sure you don't have to ask for permission from anybody, but you better make sure that you got a dang good audit trail and that you've dotted your I's and you crossed your T's. That's what we help people do.
Yep. That's why he's the Sherpa, because he's going to
I help them carry their bags.
But again, once you are implementing stuff like this, you want the record keeping, you want the paper trail, just like to Ashley's point, because again, that's the last thing, especially as you start, if you're raising capital or you're investing, you're co-investing, or you're bringing on other investors, again, you really have to take that seriously. And I can't emphasize that enough. Just real quick, Ashley, have you seen, has there been, and again, this may not be across the board, but for what you guys have handled, the clients that you've helped, are you seeing a larger emphasis in certain areas, certain states, certain jurisdictions? Again, not telling anybody not telling anybody where to invest, but just again, hey, just anecdotally for you guys, oh yeah, there's been a ton of activity XYZ in these locations.
Yeah, and there's reports that show that the urban areas where there's a lot of development going on, that those have gotten the lion's share of Opportunity Zone funds, because there were deals that were happening there in the first place. And then they wanted additional deals to happen there as well. And so as a result, there's a massive amount of, probably a disproportionate amount of cash that went into those zones. I can think of a couple in Brooklyn that you're like, whoa, wait, that's a zone? And there's a bunch of California that have received investment. I would say the ones that stand out that you're like, really? Alabama has actually been at the top of the class relative to receiving Opportunity Zone investment, namely because of how intentional they got about utilizing the program and designating their zones into low-income areas, but that were investable by investors. And then they really streamlined the program and helped bring some added stuff to it. And so they got that, as a result, they received the money. Ironically, as well, is that small communities that have done the same thing have received the same benefit. I worked with a gentleman named Jim Spencer in Bluefield, West Virginia, and they got a bunch of different Opportunity Zone deals because he got really intentional about taking advantage of the program and using it in order to benefit the community that he worked for.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, and like I said, I asked that because like that, I think for people can get stuck in their own head of, I don't know if that works here. I'm in a high cost of like that. I love that you said it's Brooklyn. People don't think, yeah, what? There's people that buy an investor? Yes, absolutely. Every city, every metro, guys. There's opportunity everywhere if you're willing to take the time and look. Like you almost have to not look. You almost have to bury your head in the sand to not see opportunity everywhere. We're in such a good time right now. We're in such a good period. I know people may not feel that way, but if you're an investor and you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for opportunities to bring value, there's opportunity all over the place. So
that's right.
I appreciate you opening up our eyes and our listeners' eyes to even just the strategy of Opportunity Zone. So I know this is going to be exciting moving forward. But actually, this is a time in our show where we transition to something, what we call our fire round, just a little bit more rapid fire, brief Q&A, a little bit more fun questions. Is that something you're up for?
Absolutely. Let's roll.
All right. Awesome. All right. First question. What is your favorite book recommendation other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad? For most real estate investors, that's the Purple Bible. But do you have and it doesn't have to be business. It can be anything. It can be mindset. It honestly doesn't matter. Do you have any go-to recommendations for people whenever they ask you?
My go-to is the Bible. First thing in the morning, not like the Bible.
Amen, brother.
Actually the Bible. But other than that, I would say Gino Wickman Traction. We implement EOS here inside of our business. We actually spun off a company that's doing integration for other people as well, and that are opportunities to businesses that need some assistance with that piece. And that's actually going really well. And we're super fired up about that.
That's awesome. And there's a common theme that I'm hearing from everything that you're saying is, man, I want to provide value. Yep. Opportunity. I want to provide value. And because it's literally like all the things that you're saying, that's what they do. And I think just, again, I don't try not to go on diatribes here about this kind of stuff, but guys, if you look for ways to do that in your own life, your life will get exponentially better. I can't say that enough, man. It's so glad to hear that.
Abundance principle. Yep.
All right. Next question. What would you consider your superpower to be?
I would say trust. And I think that the reason why I am trustworthy is because I have failed elegantly. Is that from having to, literally, my entrepreneur journey started not by choice. It was that I was at a tenant in common syndicator when the collapse happened. And so I was out looking for a job. I couldn't find one. And I was like, I guess I got to start a law practice and stuff like that along the way, that where I know what it's like to sweat making payroll. I know what it's like to trust somebody and then to be like, oh, you didn't check on that real fully. And I put myself out there based upon something that you told me, and now I got to go back and fix it. And so I've been through all of those, not all of the situations, obviously, but I've been through a number of those and had the opportunity to fail elegantly and then be able to learn from those and be able to turn them into success.
I like that. I like your framing there. I've heard many times fail forward. Like you want to,
That's right.
But to fail elegantly, I think that actually sounds better. They're both failure, guys. You can't run away from the failure.
Nope.
The failure means you're trying. Oh my goodness.
And if you're not failing, you're not trying.
Yes. And the failure too. And I think you probably agree here. The failure does not define you. It's how you respond to the failure.
That's right.
Do you take something away? Ashley said, "Hey, I want to fail elegantly." Okay, great. I failed. We all have. But did you do something with it to make yourself better, to learn from it, and to implement a lesson learned? So yeah, no, I love that.
And I think the other thing is not to hide from it and to say, hey, listen, this is what happened and this is what we learned from it. And this is how we're going to do things differently going forward. And if somebody's got a problem with that, then I don't necessarily want to do business with them anyhow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd be more scared of that. It's, hey, wait a minute, you don't want to own that? Okay. Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. All right, next question. You had a time machine and you can go back and visit 20-year-old Ashley. What advice do you have for him? Which is cool because you have a son that's around that age. So maybe you're already doing this, but if you go back in time and you visit 20-year-old you, what advice do you have for him?
Yeah, so that's a good one. I think first I tell myself never to sell any of the real estate that I owned in Charlotte.
You're not the first one to say and
don't
to give
sell
advice like that. Yes. Yep.
The other thing is that I would tell myself, and this is what I regularly tell my kids, to live on half your income, invest the rest, and get really disciplined about using recurring revenue when you want to expand your expenses. And so do not expand your expenses until you have put in place recurring revenue streams that are going to pay for it. That's a rich dad, poor dad concept. And I would smack myself in the face at least 5 times in order to make sure that the point really got driven home. So that way I'd actually do it.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So yeah, I think it's
I'm
cool
not smacking my son in the face though.
Yeah, it's you. You can do you.
Yeah.
All right, next question. For the busy working professional, somebody's trying to work towards financial freedom, what advice would you have for them?
I think that the key is to just do it. So I was a big firm lawyer when I first started my journey. I started wholesaling houses. And I had a guy that was a Carlton Sheets guy. This is how far back it was. And I saw him driving like a prowler. And I was like, oh man, the advertising world must be good. And he's, no, man, that's not advertising, that's real estate. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so we started talking about it. And he's, listen, man, you've been talking about this for a long time. He's, when are you actually going to do something about it? So I went and bought my first flip, my first wholesale deal. And then I was like, oh, wow, that was nice. And so I started doing more of those and more of those. And then that led to my first mobile home park. And then that led to my next mobile home park. And then I took the money from one of those mobile home parks that I sold in capital gains and started my first opportunity zone fund that we've now got 10 assets in that are doing extremely well. And so I think that's the key, is just get out of your fear window and just go do it. And if you fail, hey, whatever, man, chalk it up to that's your PhD. And that's what I'm trying to do with my kids, is that I want them to really get out there and just get in the game. Stop practicing, get in the game.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. All right. You know what? If our audience wants to reach out, they want to connect with you, or they've got questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so we've put together a special package for your listeners, and the link is in the show notes below. Or you could go to ozpros.com/podcast. And in that, they're going to get a masterclass, a free masterclass. They're going to get the map. They're going to get a cheat sheet. And they're going to be able to schedule a strategy call or figure out what their next step in the journey is. And so I'd highly encourage them to go to that. Go to the link below or go to ozpros.com/podcast. And we'd love to help them figure out not only how they can take the next step in their entrepreneurial journey, but how they can make it so that's going to be tax-free.
Awesome. That sounds great. Actually, I really appreciate you hopping on today with me and the listeners. Enjoyed our conversation. I learned a ton. Excited now for the summertime and what they put new on the map and what kind of opportunities that opens up. But even just laying out what you've already talked about, I know that was incredibly valuable. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day and hopping on with me and the listeners. And yeah, we wish you all the best in future endeavors.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having me on.
Aloha. Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, guys. A great episode with Ashley Tyson over at Oz Pros, talking about opportunity zones and how you can fit that in potentially into whatever it is that you're doing investing wise. There's just so much available that in the tax code, there's nothing to be afraid of, but that can really help to advance your investing career. And you want to find ways to do that because it can really fast track whatever it is that you're doing. You don't have to take 20 years working a job that you don't like in order for you to make advancements in your career. If you learn how to implement certain tax strategies, man, I could put jet boosters onto whatever it is that you're doing. I would fully look into that and take advantage of that. But if you guys are interested in connecting with us, you can go to tricityequity.com to learn more about our company and the things that we've been doing over the years, deals that we've done, markets that we've been in. If you want to connect with local like-minded investors and you are here in Honolulu, we have meetups every month. So we'd love to see you out. I'd love to have you a part of the community and connect and network. And then, of course, if you guys are finding value in the podcast and the show, make sure you like, subscribe, share the episode, share the podcast with other people. It's the only way we can continue to grow and expand and make a greater impact. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. We'll see you on the next episode. Go out and fail elegantly. I love that. Fail forward, fail elegantly. Go out, learn, try something new, not recklessly, but again, we want to be intentional with what it is that we're doing. So we'll see you on the next episode and we'll look forward to you taking some action. Aloha.